Hi, I'm John Mack, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to episode 3 of Solos, a collaborative project of the Rock River Players and the Hooker-Dunham Theater. Tonight, we'll have performances by Annie Landenberger, Stewart McDermet, Thomas Ely, Dan Lloyd, and John Moran, as well as a musical performance by T. Breeze VerDant. They will be performing works by Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Lee Masters, and by Abraham Lincoln. And Breeze's song is one that he wrote and is performing himself. Solos has many shows in the pipeline that we want you to know about. Bill Forchion does a one-person show on his own spiritual awakening. Travis LaPlante will do a solo saxophone performance of his own beautiful saxophone work. Tonight's show, like all the shows in the Solos series, is free, but we invite you to please visit the Rock River Players website and, if you feel inclined, contribute to the production of future shows. I want to give special thanks, of course, to my co-conspirator, Bahman Madavi, who has been a wonderful driving force in this project and who has produced the show that you are about to see. And also to Austin Rice of BCTV for his tremendous work behind the camera. So lean back, relax, and enjoy the show. Edgar Lee Masters' Spoon River Anthology was first published in 1915, a collection of reflections and reminiscences from Spoon River's deceased buried in the local cemetery. It offers a slice of small-town life that's poignant, witty, innocent, and wise. Stewart presents 4 of these residents at intervals throughout this episode.
My parents thought I would be as great as Edison, or greater. For as a boy, I made balloons and wondrous kites and toys with clocks in them. Engines that ran on tracks, and telephones of cans and thread. I played the cornet and painted pictures, modeled in clay, and took the part of the villain in the annual school play. But then at 21, I married, and I had to live. So, to live, I learned the trade of watchmaking and kept the jewelry store on the square. Thinking not of business, but of the engine I studied the calculus to build. And all of Spoon River watched and waited to see it work. But it never worked. And few kind souls said that my genius was hampered by the store. But that's not the truth. The truth was, I didn't have the brains.
In these next two performances, Annie Landenberger and Thomas Ely bring to life the characters of Eve and Adam as they discover and read from each other's diaries without the other's knowledge. Eve's diary and excerpts from Adam's diary were translated from the original hieroglyphics by Mark Twain.
Another day, another box. All the flotsam and jetsam of a life well lived. All the flotsam and jetsam of 900 years. At one point, it all meant something. At this point, I am happy to see it go. What's this? Adam's diary? I didn't know Adam kept a diary. Friday. She is all interest, eagerness, vivacity. The world is to her a charm, a wonder, a mystery, a joy. She can't speak for delight when she finds a new flower. She must pet it and caress it and smell it and talk to it and pour out endearing names upon it. Rose of Sharon, chrysanthemum, lily of the valley. Yeah. Oh. Saturday. Once when she was standing marble white and sun-drenched on a boulder, with her young head tilted back and her hand shading her eyes, watching the flight of a bird in the sky. I recognized that she was beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, Adam. Yes. Yes, that was difficult. Yes. I remember that. Monday. This new creature with the long hair is a good deal in the way. It is always hanging around and following me about. I don't like this. I'm not used to company. I wish it would stay with the other animals. Tuesday. Been examining the great waterfall. It is the finest thing on the estate, I think. The new creature calls it Niagara Falls. Why? I'm sure I do not know. Says it looks like Niagara Falls. That is not a reason. It is mere waywardness and imbecility. I get no chance to name anything myself. The new creature names everything that comes along before I can get in a protest. And always that same pretext is offered. It looks like the thing. All right. There is the dodo, for instance. Says one sees at a glance that it looks like a dodo. Well, yes, it will have to keep that name, no doubt. And it wearies me to fret about it, and it does no good anyway. Dodo. It looks no more like a dodo than I do. The naming goes on recklessly, in spite of anything I can do. I had a very good name for the estate, and it was pretty and musical. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. I remember that. Privately, I continue to call it that, but not any longer publicly. The new creature says it is all woods and rocks and scenery, and therefore has no resemblance to a garden. Says it looks like a park, and does not look anything but a park. Consequently, without consulting me, it has been new named Niagara Falls Park. This is sufficiently high-handed, it seems to me. And already there is a sign up. Keep off the grass. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. My life is not as happy as it was. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Sunday. Pulled through. This day is getting to be more and more trying. It was selected and set apart last November as a day of rest, but I had already had 6 of them per week before. This morning found the new creature trying to clod apples out of that forbidden tree. Forbidden tree. The forbidden fruit. On Monday, the new creature says its name is Eve. That is all right. I have no objections. Friday. She has taken to beseeching me to stop going over the falls. What harm does it do? Says it makes her shudder. I wonder why. I've always done it. Always liked the plunge and the excitement and the coolness. I went over in the falls, I went over in a barrel, not satisfactory to her. I went over in a tub, still not satisfactory. Adam, I was filled with fear when you did that. That new feeling, fear. I was afraid for you. Over the falls in a tub. Oh. Tuesday. If there is anything on this planet that she's not interested in, it's not on my list. Wednesday. She has taken up with a snake now. The other animals are all glad, for she was always experimenting with them and bothering them. And I am glad too, because the snake talks, and this enables me to get a rest. Friday. She says the snake advises her to try the fruit of that tree, and says the result will be a great and fine and noble education. Yes, an education. But I told her there would be another result too. It would introduce death into the world. I remember. Death. Death was new. I do regret that. 10 years later, they are boys. We found it out long ago. It was their coming in that small, immature shape that puzzled us. We were not used to it. There are some girls now, too. Abel is a good boy, but if Cain had stayed a bear, it would have improved him. A bear. Yes. After all these years, I see that I was mistaken about Eve in the beginning. It is better to live outside the garden with her than inside without her. At first I thought she talked too much, but now I should be sorry to have that voice fall silent and pass out of my life. Blessed be that we were drawn together, and that she taught me to know the goodness of her heart and the sweetness of her spirit. Oh, Adam. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
I knew she had a diary somewhere. I just didn't know where she was hiding it. I found it today in the back of the closet while I was looking for something else. Oh, all these years I've been curious about what she's written and what she's been thinking about us. Well, about me. And now I have it. I've just got to look at it. Oh. That reminds me, I used to keep a diary. I wonder where that is. I think I packed it in a box the last time we moved. Oh, I hope she doesn't find it. She's been going through so much stuff these days. I'll have to look for it before she finds it. But first, I've got to read this. Then I'll put it back. Oh. Day 1, Saturday. I am almost a whole day old now. I arrived yesterday. Everything looks better today than it did yesterday. In the rush of finishing up yesterday, the mountains were left in a ragged condition, and some of the plains were so cluttered with rubbish and remnants that the aspects were quite distressing. There are too many stars in some places and not enough in others. But that can be remedied. Oh. The moon got loose last night and slid down and fell out of the scheme. A very great loss. There isn't another thing among the ornaments and decorations that is comparable. It should have been fastened better. Fastened better. I remember her saying something like that. Monday. They returned the moon last night, and I was so happy. I followed the other experiment around at a distance to see what it might be, but I was not able to make it out. I think it is a man. She's talking about me. Imagine calling me an experiment. I realize that I feel more curiosity about it than about any of the other reptiles. It has no hips. It tapers like a carrot. When it stands, it spreads itself apart like a derrick. A derrick. So I think it is a reptile, though it may be architecture. Oh, an experiment. A reptile. Architecture. A man. Let's see. Wednesday. We're getting along very well indeed and getting better and better acquainted. He does not try to avoid me anymore. During the last day or two, I have taken all the work of naming things off his hands, and this has been a great relief to him, for he has no gift in that line. He can't think of a rational name to save him, but I do not let him see that I am aware of his defect. Defect, really. When a new creature comes along, I name it before he has time to expose himself by an awkward silence. I have no defect like this. The minute I set eyes on an animal, I know what it is. I don't have to reflect a moment. The right name comes out instantly, just as if it were an inspiration. Inspiration, indeed. When the dodo came along, he thought it was a wildcat. I saw it in his eye, but I saved him, and I was careful not to do it in a way that could hurt his pride. I just spoke up in a quite natural way of pleasing surprise, and not as if I was dreaming of conveying information, and said, "Well, I do declare, if there isn't the dodo." I explained, without seeming to be explaining, how I know it for a dodo. And although I thought maybe he was a little piqued that I knew the creature when he didn't, it was quite evident that he admired me. That's what she thought. I admired her. I seem to remember saying, "That doesn't look any more like a dodo than I do." Her and her naming. More there. Okay. Monday. This morning, I told him my name, hoping it would interest him, but he did not care for it. He talks very little. Perhaps it is because he is not bright. Not bright. And is sensitive about it, and wishes to conceal it. So she didn't think I was very bright. I wonder what she thinks now. It is such a pity that he should feel so, for brightness is nothing. It is in the heart that the values lie. I wish I could make him understand that a loving good heart is riches, and riches enough, and that without it, intellect is poverty. Thursday, I tried once more to persuade him to stop going over the falls. The falls! Oh, she sure did nag me about that. But I love the thrill of it. I love the adventure. I tried once more to persuade him to stop going for. That was because the fire had revealed to me a new passion, quite new and distinctly different from love, grief, and those others which I had already discovered. Fear. And it is horrible. She sure was right about that. More about the falls. More about fear. Saturday. The birds and animals are all friendly to each other, and there are no disputes about anything. They all talk, and they all talk to me, but it must be a foreign language, for I cannot make out a word they say, yet they often understand me. It makes me ashamed. It shows that they are brighter than I am. I have learned a number of things and am educated now, but I wasn't at first. I was ignorant at first. Perhaps we both were. Or maybe just innocent. There's so much here. More about the animals. Niagara Falls again. Oh. After the fall. That sure did change things for us. When I look back, the garden is a dream to me. It was beautiful, surpassingly beautiful, enchantingly beautiful. And now it is lost, and I shall not see it anymore. 40 years later. Oh my, it has been that many years. It is my prayer, it is my longing that we may pass from this life together. A longing which shall never perish from the earth, but shall have place in the heart of every wife that loves until the end of time. And it shall be called by my name. But if one of us must go first, it is my prayer that it shall be I. Oh, Eve.
How many times during the 20 years that I was your leader, friends of Spoon River, did you neglect the convention and the caucus and leave the burden on my hands of guarding and saving the people's cause? Sometimes because you were ill, or your grandmother was ill, or you drank too much and fell asleep. Or else you said, he is our leader, all will be well. He fights for us. We have nothing to do but follow. But oh, how you cursed me when I fell. And cursed me, saying, I had betrayed you in leaving the caucus for a moment when the people's enemies, there assembled, waited and watched for a chance to destroy the sacred rights of the people. You common rabble, I left the caucus to go to the bathroom.
The song, Legacy, performed by its creator, VerDant, with harmonies by Annie Landenberger, took 3 months to write. The lyrics give testimony to the lasting effects of alcohol and war on men with their subsequent demons of isolation, dark thoughts, and shame. It also gives testimony to the healing power of opening up and letting others bear the burden alongside oneself. Breeze offers this song with the hope and intention that it brings healing to others struggling with some of the same issues.
I was taught to be a hero, but not to be brave. And enough to fight my own inner battles, and it put me in my grave. Frightened by my shadow, I tried to gulp in light, but the alcohol flared quickly. It left my daylight dark as night. My demon shame had me wandering around the devil's map. I left my childhood curled on a battlefield, frozen beneath some trap. Sometimes I felt so hollow, attempting to be fine. But when a man's not free to know his own heart, it gets passed on down the line. Yeah, it passes on down the line. Beaten by my shadow, desperate for some light, but the devil's drink proved deadly. It left this graveyard black as night. No, this cold graveyard's blacker than night. If I could have leaned into this darkness with some warm friends by my side, to hold my hand and understand this burden of shame, that I'm not to blame. But I was scared of my own shadow. It just wouldn't leave me alone. When it comes to being lovely sometimes, we're the last to know.
How is it, tell me, that I, the most erudite of lawyers, who knew Blackstone and Coke almost by heart, who gave the greatest speech the courthouse has ever heard, who wrote a brief that won the praise of Justice Breeze, how is it, tell me, that I lie here unmarked and forgotten, while Chase Henry, the town drunkard, has a marble block topped with an urn, where nature, in a mood ironical, has sown a flowering weed.
Macbeth shall be king, declare three witches at the beginning of Shakespeare's Scottish play. Macbeth wants to rule, but to take the crown, he'll have to kill King Duncan in his sleep while visiting Macbeth's castle. It's midnight, and we're inside Macbeth's fevered mind as he creeps toward murder.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle to my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain? I see thee yet, in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee yet, and on thy blade and dungeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business informs thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the one half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel the wolf, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design moves like a ghost. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear the very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it. Whilst I threat, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds to cold breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell.
I lost my patronage in Spoon River from putting my mind in the camera to capture the soul of a person. The very best picture I ever took was a Judge Salmers, attorney at law. He sat there rigid perfectly and had me pause till he got his cross-eyed straight. Then when he was ready, he said, "All right." And I yelled, "Overruled!" And his eye crossed over, and I caught him just as he looked when he said, "I accept." That was it. It was what I liked that. He was good, I could say.
In the present, Abraham Lincoln looks to the past, to his presidency and the war he prosecuted regardless the cost to preserve the Union, to Gettysburg at the time of mourning and hope for the future of a reborn America.
Looking back at that war that tore our nation apart, turning family against family, region against region, abandoned and ridiculed by many, through bouts of suicidal depression, when hundreds of thousands of us were killing each other, I held steadfast to preserve the Union. And then in 1863, at a dedication of a cemetery for some of our fallen, I was asked to say a few words. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come here to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our powers to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here. But it cannot forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth.